Hey there, welcome back. Today we're diving into a concept that might make you see your workplace in a whole new light. Detrimental citizenship behavior, or DCB for short.
Hmm.
We're talking about those well-intentioned actions that employees take that end up backfiring and actually harming their organizations.
What's fascinating here is that these actions are often driven by a genuine desire to help the company. But as we'll explore, good intentions can have unintended consequences, sometimes with far-reaching effects.
Definitely. For this deep dive, we're going to unpack a 2015 research article by Jason R. Pierce and Herman McGinnis from the Management and Organization Review. It's called Detrimental Citizenship Behavior, a multi-level framework of antecedents and consequences.
Okay.
And it's packed with insights that can help us understand how these situations arise and how to avoid them.
The authors lay out a compelling framework for understanding DCB, identifying two key drivers: organizational concern and ethical sensitivity, essentially. It's about the interplay between how much someone cares about their organization and their ability to recognize and act on ethical considerations.
Okay, let's break those down a bit. What exactly is organizational concern?
Think of it as the degree to which an employee identifies with their organization and wants to see it succeed. It can be influenced by things like loyalty to the company, a desire for promotion, or even just a fear of job loss.
So the more invested someone is in their organization, the more likely they might be to go above and beyond,
Yeah,
even if it means bending the rules.
exactly. And that's where ethical sensitivity comes into play. It's about recognizing the ethical implications of your actions and having the moral compass to choose the right path, even when it's difficult.
I see where this is going. Someone with high organizational concern but low ethical sensitivity might be a prime candidate for DCB.
Precisely. They might be so focused on helping the company that they overlook or even justify actions that are ultimately harmful.
To make this a bit more concrete, the researchers provide some real-world examples of DCB in action. I think these will really resonate with our listeners, especially if they've ever witnessed anything similar in their own workplaces.
Let's take a look.
First up, we have the infamous case of Royal Caribbean Cruise Line employees who were caught illegally dumping oil into the ocean. To avoid hefty fines, they went to great lengths to cover up their actions.
This is a classic example of high organizational concern, wanting to protect the company's reputation and bottom line, overriding ethical sensitivity. The employees knew their actions were wrong, but they felt pressure to prioritize the company's interests above environmental regulations and ethical considerations.
Yeah, it's a sobering reminder that even large, well-known companies can fall prey to DCB, and the consequences can be severe. Speaking of which, there's also that case of a school principal who strip searched a 13-year-old girl after another student claimed she had ibuprofen.
This one is particularly disturbing because it highlights how good intentions, in this case enforcing a zero-tolerance drug policy, can be completely warped by DCB. The principal's actions were clearly a violation of the student's privacy and dignity, yet they likely believed they were acting in the best interests of the school.
It's a reminder that DCB isn't limited to the corporate world. It can occur anywhere, even in institutions we trust to protect our children.
Absolutely. And to round out our examples, we have a case from Walmart in China, where managers deliberately mislabeled ordinary pork as organic to boost sales.
Oh, wow. This one hits close to home for anyone who buys organic products.
Right. What's interesting here is that they weren't even being particularly innovative in their deception. Mislabeling products for profit is a tactic as old as time. They were simply replicating a known DCB prototype, driven by the desire to boost their sales figures and potentially their own bonuses. These examples really highlight how pervasive DCB can be, the various forms it can take, but what happens after the act itself? What are the potential consequences?
That's a great question. I imagine things can unravel pretty quickly once detrimental behavior comes to light.
Absolutely. The research points to the crucial role of stakeholder detection. Someone somewhere has to become aware of the DCB. Sometimes it's immediate, like in the strip search case where the student herself was acutely aware of what was happening. Other times it might take a whistleblower or an investigation to bring the issue to light, as we saw with Royal Caribbean.
So once the DCB is out in the open,
Mm-hmm.
what determines how people react? Do they just shrug it off, or does it spark outrage?
That's where the concept of issue conditions comes into play. Think of it as the context surrounding the DCB. What was the magnitude of the harm? Who was affected? Was it a physical, financial, or emotional violation? These factors all shape how stakeholders perceive the issue.
So dumping oil into the ocean is going to generate a much stronger reaction than, say, fudging numbers on an expense report.
Exactly. The more egregious the violation, the greater the potential for outrage. And this is where things can really escalate.
Because it's not just about one individual's reaction, right? There's a ripple effect.
Precisely. The authors emphasize how stakeholder networks come into play. Think about it. One person might not have much power on their own, but when they start talking to others, sharing their outrage or concern, it can activate an entire network of stakeholders.
Word spreads, people start taking sides, and suddenly the company is facing a PR nightmare. Maybe even legal action.
Exactly. And the consequences can be far-reaching, impacting individuals, the organization itself, and even society at large.
Wow, it sounds like DCB can really set off a chain reaction. Let's break down those different levels of impact. What are the consequences for individuals involved in DCB?
Well, for starters, there's the legal and professional fallout. Depending on the severity of the offense, individuals could face fines, lawsuits, or even jail time. Reputations can be irreparably damaged, making it difficult to find new jobs.
Yeah, I can't imagine the stress of dealing with that kind of fallout. And what about the organizations themselves? What are they up against?
They could suffer significant financial losses through lawsuits, fines, and lost business. They might also face increased scrutiny and regulation from government agencies, but perhaps the most enduring damage is to their reputation. Once trust is eroded, it can be incredibly difficult to win back customers, partners, and investors.
It's like a domino effect, isn't it? One bad decision leads to another, and the organization keeps taking hits.
Absolutely. And the impact can extend beyond the immediate stakeholders, influencing public perception and trust in entire industries, or even society as a whole.
Now, how does DCB end up hurting society? Can you give us an example?
Think about the financial crisis of 2008. It was fueled in part by unethical behavior in the banking industry, from predatory lending practices to outright fraud. This eroded public trust in financial institutions, leading to stricter regulations and a general sense of unease about the economy. That's just one example of how DCB can have widespread societal consequences.
So it's not just about a few bad apples spoiling the bunch. It's about the potential for those bad apples to contaminate the entire barrel, impacting all of us.
Exactly. And that brings us to a crucial question. How can we prevent these downward spirals? How can we foster a culture of positive citizenship in organizations, where employees feel empowered to go the extra mile without crossing ethical lines?
That's what I was just thinking. It's not like we're saying all organizational citizenship is bad. We need people to be engaged and committed to their work.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot, that balance between organizational concern and ethical sensitivity. And that's what we'll explore next.
So how do we cultivate that balance? How can organizations encourage employees to be good citizens without letting things slip into detrimental territory?
Well, the researchers don't offer a simple recipe, and that's because this is a multifaceted challenge. But their work does offer valuable insights into how organizations can create an environment that minimizes the risk of DCB.
I'm all ears. Give us some takeaways. Where do we even begin?
It starts at the top. Leaders need to establish a clear and consistent message that ethical conduct is paramount. It's not enough to just talk the talk. They need to walk the walk, demonstrating through their own actions that ethical considerations are never negotiable.
So lead by example. Make it clear that doing the right thing is valued above all else.
Exactly. And it goes beyond individual behavior. Organizations need to implement systems and structures that reinforce ethical decision-making. Think clear ethical guidelines, robust training programs that equip employees to recognize and navigate ethical dilemmas, and safe channels for reporting concerns without fear of retaliation.
It's about creating a culture where people feel empowered to speak up. If they see something that doesn't seem right, they shouldn't have to choose between doing what's right and protecting their job.
Absolutely. And it's also about recognizing that people come from different backgrounds and have varying levels of ethical awareness. Some might have a natural intuition for ethical nuances, while others might need more guidance and support to develop those skills.
So it's not about assuming everyone's on the same page ethically. It's about providing the resources and support to help everyone make responsible choices.
Precisely. And perhaps most importantly, it's about shifting the narrative around ethical conduct. It shouldn't be seen as a constraint or a burden. Instead, organizations should emphasize the positive connection between ethical behavior and organizational success.
What do you mean?
Think about it. Companies with strong ethical reputations tend to attract and retain top talent. They build trust with customers and partners, leading to stronger relationships and ultimately better financial performance. Ethical conduct isn't just the right thing to do, it's also good business.
So it's about creating a win-win scenario where doing good and doing well go hand in hand.
Exactly, and that's the challenge I leave with you. How can we, in our own workplaces and beyond, create environments where organizational citizenship thrives within a framework of ethical awareness? How can we ensure that good intentions lead to positive outcomes for individuals, organizations, and society as a whole? Because ultimately, we all have a role to play in preventing those good intentions from going terribly wrong.
It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the complex world of detrimental citizenship behavior. We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little thought-provoking. Remember to subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating topics. And until next time, stay curious.